Thank you. With me tonight, I'm Gerald Mulligan, Chair. With me tonight is members Lynn Eichholt, Matthew Cole, and Bruce Taub. Also, Building Commissioner Tom Evers, and I think Jennifer Higgins is our recording secretary is on board too. So before we get into the cases, I want to discuss a couple of things. First and foremost, I'd like to get a consensus of the board as to how to proceed tonight. As you know, we have proceeded along those lines in the past. We never had a discussion about it. It was my predecessor's sort of ruling. I thought it was an appropriate and a good ruling, but I think we ought to expressly confirm it amongst ourselves. The applicants are entitled to have a full board hear their applications. And they need only 4 of those 5 full members to be successful. In the past, when we've only had 4, we've had a certain procedure I want to talk about. Now, let me just say that I think that the town has been unable to provide with regularity a 5-member board. And it's the town's failing. The town doesn't have any associates for us, and it shouldn't fall on us, the 5 of us, to be to never miss a meeting. Life doesn't work that way. That's why they allow 3 associates. The town hasn't fulfilled its obligations, and I don't think that then should put a burden on the applicant. So what has happened in the past is that when the application is heard, there's a discussion. And then at the end of the discussion, before there's a vote, the applicant is given the opportunity to ask for a continuance. I think that's appropriate. I liked the way Mr. Monarch did that in the past, but it was never agreed to by the rest of the board. And so I want to have a discussion about that tonight, because I think we're going to be facing tonight with 2 cases. And I think as we continue on, unless things change dramatically, we'll have this situation facing us in the future. I, for one, think that's a fair way to level the playing field and remove the disadvantage that the petitioners have at the town's expense. I'd like to open to anybody else's suggestions or thoughts.
If I could.
Yeah.
So 2 things. In my long tenure on the board, I can't remember a single instance where somebody asking for their first continuance is denied. So I absolutely think that opportunity should be afforded to any applicant. They wait a long time to see us. They invest a lot to come see us. We should be willing to do that. The other thing that I think is a helpful mechanism, particularly when there's 4, is the ability to pull the board. And votes shouldn't be surprises. We should be willing to put forward our opinion before the vote is taken, because that too should factor into the outcome. So I have no problem with either of those things myself, personally, just speaking myself. I think it just goes to a more complete experience for applicants that spend a lot of time and dollars to get to us.
Great. Well, I agree with that. Leanne or Bruce?
The question in my mind is, when are they afforded the opportunity, or how frequently are they afforded their opportunity? They come to the meeting and they discover there are only 4 people there, and they're told, you can ask for a continuance now, or you can ask for a continuance presumably at the closure of the evidence, and there being some level of disclosure about which way the board is inclined, which I don't have a problem with either. And then after that, I suppose they should, I don't know when, but it's in relationship to that question. of when are they offered the second opportunity and what has preceded it that I'm asking for clarification. But in general, I support this as well.
All right, good. Well, I think what they're offered is an opportunity to be heard before a full board of 5. And once that happens, that's it.
So at the beginning, if there are only 4 there, they're asked in advance, do you want to proceed or not? Is that what you're saying?
Well, we do that. That I think is not controversial. I think the
Okay,
controversial part is when we give them a chance to ask for continuance after they've heard some discussion of the case.
So I think I'm asking for clarification, and this may be just over lawyering. Between at the end of the discussion, the chair says, okay, that's the close of the evidence. I'll hear discussion, and there's some discussion. Sometimes people say I'd be leaning toward it. Sometimes people don't. Then the discussion ends. And is it at that point? I hate to be this nitpicky, but we want consistency here. That's what you're looking for, and I appreciate it. At what point is it said to them, you have another bite at the apple?
Mr. Cole has expressed that we could even poll the board before voting, which is
Right,
very
that I
specific.
find a little, I don't know, there's something about that. I could be my mind could be changed, but as a kind of lay, superficial, first-time response, we were asking them, you can have a vote, and if you don't like the vote, you can ask for a fuller vote because maybe you'll get the other person. Just doesn't feel right.
Well, that's what they're entitled to, isn't it? A board of 5 people.
Yes. And they've been asked if they would like that at the beginning, and they've said, no, we're willing to venture forth with 4. And are we telling them, oh, and besides which, if you venture forth with 4 and you don't like what you heard at the end of the polling, you can say, okay, I would like 5 now.
Yeah,
And
that's what we're saying.
it just doesn't feel good.
Well, then we can skip the polling before, or we can skip the asking before. Presumably.
That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking is that we not, if somebody on the board says, I'd be inclined to vote for this, or I don't like it at this point, you're free to say that, but to ask to actually poll the board, I would prefer not to do that, Jerry. That's all.
Okay, all right, I got it.
Thank
Lynn?
you.
I think we very rarely did poll the board because in the discussion, people's opinions have become apparent. And I don't know if we ever did formally poll the board. We may have.
I recall one instance where, and this may be fantasy more than reality, but I recall one instance where I told Mr. Zender that he should ask for the full board. In one of our meetings when we were being polled or whatever we were being apropos of that I explicitly knew that I was in opposition and said so. And then I believe it was Zender said, okay, I'll wait for the full board.
Yeah. What I think
Matt,
the
you
worst.
remember anything akin to that?
I do, yes.
Okay, thank you.
See, that Matt's younger. He has a better memory than I do. So I think what we're trying to do is not have somebody walk away from our hearings feeling that their rights have been denied because they didn't have the full opportunity. I think that's the worst outcome. And it makes like a game of roulette, and we don't want that. We want a fair hearing, and so I'm with you, Bruce, and I'm happy to not do a full polling, but just let the sentiments be expressed as they are in the course of the discussion. Lynn, do you have any thoughts you want to add to this?
One that you haven't talked about, Jerry, is if we can give advance notice to an applicant that we know there won't be 5 people.
Yeah.
I think we should do that and say, would you prefer to wait and come forward when we have 5 people, like before they, spend the time and effort to come to the meeting. So that's one. I think we should try to do it in advance when we know that there will only be 4. And then
Right.
I'm comfortable just asking in the beginning, as we have in the past, are you willing to go forward with 4?
Right. But
Mr.
then
Chairman.
still allow them the opportunity after some discussion.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr.
But
Chairman.
I think we're all of a mind here. I think we have a aggregatio mentium, a meeting of the minds. Not so, a mutuality, there's no such thing as a meeting of the minds. We have a mutuality of assent. Anyway, that's an in-joke. Mr. Zender, you're not a member of the board, but it seems like you want to say something. So we're
I
happy
do. Can you all hear me okay?
to- Yeah,
Okay, I just want to a little bit of his venting, a little bit of just the dynamic. I like to think that about 90% of what we do with boards is sort of a mutual problem solving exercise. And especially with the Orleans, it really feels that way. So, but the other thing that happens on our end, and Matt knows this very well, is we need to get these permits addressed and we need to get them completed. We need to get our clients working on their projects because they're on timelines. So when we come in and only have 4 members, it's not as simple as just saying, okay, let's not go forward because there are only 4 members. We have an entire team of people that is moving forward with a very expensive process. So we have to, and we understand that in many of these situations, there may not be an issue in the presentation or the review by the board. And so we want to get it heard. And the other thing that I found over the years is that the boards generally tend to act unanimously. Generally, sometimes you can have the odd holdout, but generally they act unanimously. So we really do like to go forward with 4 members because until we know that there's a problem, a 4-0 vote is not really an unlikely result. So, but what I do find is that with the question of polling, depending on the town, in most dynamics that I work with, you usually have a problem with polling when you have 1 or more members that don't like projects and are not inclined to vote for projects. And those members tend to resist giving advanced discussions of how they feel. And so I think it's better for the board to have a policy as to whether or not it will poll the board with a 4-member thing before you get into any particular hearing. Because if you get into the back end of the hearing and the chairman says, look, I'll ask members what they think, you can speak up or not. Oftentimes we'll get 1 or 2 members that like the project will say, I like it. And you get 1 or 2 or 3 members that don't like it. We'll just say, look, I really don't want to tell you what I think. And then we're really left without the ability to evaluate the project as well as to get some clear feedback as to what to do to come back. So on my end, the best thing that I would like as a practitioner, and it may not be what the board wants to do, and I respect that, would be a board policy that if there are 4 members, the applicant will have the opportunity to go forward or not go forward. And at the close, not the close of the hearing, but at the end of the presentation and the questions and all the information, the board will provide the applicant with feedback as to where they're going with this so that the applicant can make an informed decision as to whether to ask for a vote or not. If you don't make that as a policy, we're kind of left with the dynamics of any particular hearing of members deciding yes, or I will or won't want to tell you how I think. And those situations get very difficult for us to get feedback. So, and whatever you do, I respect and I'm fine with it. Thank you.
well, I think what, I don't want to speak for Mr. Todd, but I think what we just came to agreement with after his concern about polling, which you seem to, I don't know where you were. You were and you weren't. You were against formal polling, but you were asking for a sense of the board. I don't know what that is if it's not polling. I mean, in other words, after the questions are heard, and what I found in this board is that you very rarely are surprised by the actual vote because everybody has tipped their hand before the vote. And I think what we're saying is that we'll just pause, and I'm not prepared to ask for a sense of the board because that to me is polling. I think it's up to the representative, the applicant, to figure out if there's been enough clues given during the questions. I mean, to poll is actually to say, if you poll and you get 1 no, then you're absolutely going to continue.
Exactly. Or, and the other thing about polling is that if the chair goes down the line and the members say, I will vote for it, and you have 4 people say, I'll vote for it, we'll ask for a vote and it's over with. If the chair asks the members and one member says, look, I can't vote for it and here's why, then we will be able to ask for continuance and go back and address that issue. Usually it's not to try to get a 5th member, because I find that bringing a 5th member, it doesn't really usually help you if you're not going to get the permit. It's really more so you don't get that surprise of the silent member just voting no at the end of the roll call. And that's happened to me, and it's really, really difficult to deal with when it happens. So as long as we have a clear sense, we're fine. But if we don't, it gets difficult.
Well, I guess we'll just feel our way through this process. We won't do a formal polling, and we'll see where we are at the end. I don't know if I'm not sure in any of these cases tonight are going to raise that kind of issue. But let's just see where we go. And as long as what I was really trying to get tonight was just a sense that we will give them an opportunity at some point after the discussion to continue. And I got that from the board. And let's just see how it goes from there then.
Thank
Okay,
you.
everybody okay with that? All right. Now, so let's do some work. Because we always forget at the end of meetings, I'd like to have a process where we approve our minutes at the beginning. You should have gotten in the last hour or so minutes of June 15, September 7th, and October 5th. These are minutes that October 5th was a non-meeting. Those minutes are pretty easy. By the way, thank you, Matt, for doing that on October 5th, for running that meeting. Are there any questions or comments about those 3 minutes?
I'll move approval.
You move approval of all 3 at once?
Yes, all 3.
And I guess we have to call the roll. I vote aye. Lynn?
We need a second.
Matt, second, yeah. And Bruce, you okay
Yes.
with the minutes? All right,
You
the
know, I
minutes-
haven't reviewed them. I want to be honest as a jurist.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that there's a major problem given the support they have from others, but if we're going to approve minutes at the beginning of the meeting, then I'd like to see them a little earlier. I'm
Yeah, I
not
agree.
criticizing. I'm not criticizing. I've
I agree.
approved these minutes.
All right, then they are approved unanimously. We need to also, now here's something I don't understand. If the, well, I guess, we're forcing the first 2, the issue is whether we need to move to accept the request to continue. Now, the first 2 cases tonight, they're being continued because we haven't got a quorum. I'm not sure we need a motion to allow them to be continued. They have no choice, and it's our fault. So I'm not going to ask for a motion on that. I would ask for a motion to allow the 3rd case, case 2184 Worldwide Antenna Systems, is asked for continuation. And I'd like to have a motion to approve that request.
So we need to move it to a date certain. Are they asking for the next meeting? Oh,
You know, I don't know that. I wasn't informed, Matt, of that. I just knew that they asked for continuance. It has to be to date certain. Is that in our regulations?
So I'll make the motion to continue the case to November 2nd, and certainly we can continue it again if they're not prepared. So case number 2184 continue to November 2nd.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? No.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, good. All right, so the first case the first 3 cases are continued. The first case in our agenda is case number 2185. Steve and Allison Quackenbush have applied for a special permit. Is that, that they're pro se. Is Mr. Quackenbush or anyone representing the Quackenbushes here to speak on the application? Welcome, Mr. Quackenbush. Your microphone is turned off.
There we go. Got it. And my video is off for some reason. I don't know why that is. Let's see. Our video. There we go. Okay. You see me and hear me okay?
Yes, certainly, we do.
Oh, great. Thank you. Okay, so I'm Steve Quackenbush. The address is 26 Great Oak Road. And we are applying for a special permit under section 164-44 and 164-3C1B of the bylaws to construct an addition on a pre-existing non-conforming deck on the rear of our house. It's a residential zoning district. It's about almost 15,000 square foot lot with the 1,667 square foot, 1.75 story house built in 1994. The property itself is pre-existing non-conforming, less than 40,000 square feet. And the issue that we uncovered relative to our proposed addition was the rear minimum setback for a small portion of the existing deck is not compliant. It's 21.1 feet, not 25 feet from the rear property line. It's literally a corner of the proposed addition. The addition consists of a family room, a screened-in porch, and a mudroom or entryway, as well as a new deck. So the only part that is non-conforming will be a corner of the family room addition, the rear left corner, which is again being built on top of the existing deck that is currently non-conforming. So we found this out as we were going for conservation approval because we're within 100 feet of wetlands. And we got approval from conservation on 7/25/22. And when they did the survey, they indicated that we had the issue with the deck being non-conforming.
Oh, you didn't know that prior to this application or to this?
No, that was a nice surprise.
Did you know when the lot was created? Just by happenstance, just by?
I don't. I can probably find somewhere in my files.
That's all right. I was just curious. It doesn't go to the issue today. I just wondering because it's an awful small lot. I was just wondering how long ago it was created.
Yeah, there's the one next to us too is very small as well. I think these were old cottages. This one, I believe, was my understanding of the history was it was burned down as a training exercise for the fire department, and the family built a new one on the lot in 1994.
And is the 14,807, is it all upland, buildable upland?
Yes.
Thank you. Let me ask a question of showing my ignorance. It probably is a question to Tom Evers. Because we're adding height to the setback, the violation of setback, that doesn't intensify the non-conforming. The height doesn't. It's just when it's a question of just distance, increased height is not an intensification of that variance or non-conformance.
You're speaking to me?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it as just adding volume within the setback. It's just,
Yeah. So it's
mean,
not an enhancement of the non-conformance.
well, you can look at it that way, yes.
Well, we have to look at it the other way because the
Well, I have always considered it an increase because of the increase in area and volume requires the special permit. I mean, I got that from Brian Harrison, so.
yeah, okay, but it's not. Then you get the wording of the bylaw so that if it's an additional. Yeah. I understand coming in for a special permit. I guess the question is the language here, which I tripped over this afternoon. You understand where I am on this, Matt? You understand this issue?
Yeah, so it's an extension of an existing nonconformity, which we can do by special permit under 164(3)(c)(1)(b). So it's not a new nonconformity.
It's not a new conformity. Oh,
It's not a new nonconformity.
Okay, all right. That's the answer to my question. Thanks, Matt. Good. Yeah, thank you. All right, anyone else have questions of Mr. Quackenbush?
No,
All right, Bruce, nothing? Matt?
Good. No, I'd like to just make sure I understand. The deck is not itself being extended, but the area above the deck, the height above the deck is being increased, and that's the extension of the pre-existing nonconformity. Is that a correct understanding?
Yes, yeah, that is what that's what we just said, yeah.
There's no extension of the deck itself toward, no, okay, thank you. I have no other questions.
Okay. Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone out there wishing to speak in opposition? Well, I have a proposed set of findings, which I'd like to read, and then we can discuss. Finding number one, the notice of the hearing was given in the manner and time required by law. 2, the lot consists of 14,807 square feet with existing building coverage of 8.1%. The existing building is non-conforming as to rear setback. The proposed construction will not change the building footprint and not increase the non-conformity, but will increase building coverage to 12.1%, a significant percentage increase, but less than the allowed 15%. The property is adequate in terms of size for the proposed continued residential use. 3, the site is located within the residential zoning district where residential use is permitted as of right and continues the existing residential use on site. 4, the proposed use will have no negative impact on traffic flow or safety. 5, the proposed construction will use design and materials consistent with the existing building and will not impact the neighborhood's visual character nor its views and vistas. 6, the property has an existing septic system sufficient for its continued residential use and has access to town water. Roof runoff will be directed to a new drywall, providing adequate drainage. 7, there are existing electrical, telephone, data, and water services adequate for the continued residential use of the property. 8, other than temporary noise during construction, no noise or litter is expected to result from the proposal. And 9, no impact on groundwater quality or recharge volume or the water quality of any coastal or fresh surface water body will result from the proposal. That's my proposed finding of facts.
Move to approve as presented.
Is there a second?
second,
All in favor? Say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Move to grant the special permit.
Have a second?
second,
All right, let me call the roll. Mr. Cole,
Aye.
Ms. Icold,
aye.
Mr. Taub,
I just want to take this opportunity to indicate that we didn't tell the applicant anything about 4 members and 3 members and voting and the like after our discussion.
violating our own procedures in our first instance, Mr. Taub.
I read the room. I felt good.
But I support this application, yes.
I do too, so it passes unanimously.
Thank you all very much.
You're welcome. All right. The next case for our attention is case number 2186. The application on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Sam Mugaraj. Sam Mugaraj. Is that right, Mr. Zen Mugaraj? Shan Mugaraj?
Hello, can the board hear me okay?
Yes, fine.
I think it's Sean Mugaraj.
Ishan Mugraj.
Proceed, Mr. Zender, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. Dub. If you wouldn't mind, if the board could promote Aaron Polhemus as a participant in this matter, and I don't know whether David Little is in the waiting room, but if he is, could promote David as well.
I suppose I should start with our procedures, which we violated in the last case. We'll start now. There are only 4 members of the board to hear this application. Do you wish to proceed, Mr. Zender?
I would, please, Mr. Chairman.
All right, fine. Then please do.
Okay, thank you. And again, my name is Ben Zender, and it's nice to see you all again. And I'm here with Aaron Polhemus of Polhemus Savory. And this is an application under your note 4 of your use tables that require that when you increase the lot coverage of structures on the lot over 4,000 square feet, you're required to obtain a special permit from this board. The property at 3020 Lane is improved with a single family residence. And we've provided existing and proposed elevations and floor plans for the residents. There really are not a lot of changes being made to the exterior of the residence. Aaron's company is going to be doing an interior remodeling as well as expanding the garage structure, which is closest to the road, and putting a second floor on the garage structure to put an exercise room on the second floor. So this is going to increase the total lot coverage on the property from 4,575 square feet to 4,740 square feet. 342 square feet of that is a boathouse that's not being altered in any way. It's going to increase the square footage of living area in the first floor by 86 square feet. And then because of the addition of the exercise room and some work on the upstairs, it'll increase the upstairs by 1,219 square feet. So essentially, it's increasing the footprint of this structure by 165 square feet. It's not changing the use of the structure. It's not changing the bedroom count of the structure. It's really not even changing the visual aspect of this structure, especially from the water, because the garage is on the landward side of the structure. So with that very brief description, if the board has any questions, either I or Aaron will try to answer them for you, and we hope you grant the permit. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the applicant? Is there anyone in the audience or in attendance who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? All right. I have prepared some findings of fact, which I'd like to read to the board at this point. Well, is this where we should pause and ask if you want to continue on? Mr.
Yeah, I used to think I could read a room. I'm not so good anymore. I would love if any member believes that there's something about this application that they need more information on, or they can't support the application, I'd love to hear about that, now. Otherwise, I would ask the board to continue.
Is there any member of the board who would like more information or clarification on this application? There being none, I think the room is red, Mr. Zender.
Thank you, Mr. Mulligan. I would like to proceed, please.
All right. 1, findings of fact. The notice of hearing was given in the manner and time required by law. 2, the proposal will result in a building coverage of 4,740 square feet, which is 7.2% of the building upland. The property is adequate in terms of size for the proposed continued residential use. 3, property in a residential district and the proposal continues. Property is in a residential district and the proposal continues its use as a residence. The site is suitable for the proposed use. The proposed use will have no additional impact on traffic flow or safety. Number 4, 5, the proposed construction is in keeping with the style and appearance of the neighborhood. The proposal will not impact neighboring vistas and views. 6, the property has an existing septic system sufficient for its continued residential use and has access to town water. The total impervious lot coverage is increasing by only 165 square feet. No change in water drainage is expected. 7, there are existing electrical, telephone, and data and water services adequate for the continued residential use of the property. 8, Other than the temporary noise during construction, no noise or litter is expected to result in the proposal. And 9, no impact on groundwater quality, recharge volume, and the water quality of coastal and fresh surface water bodies is expected. Those are the findings of fact. Do I have a motion to accept those finding of facts?
So moved.
Can I ask for a point of order, please?
Sure.
Why are we reciting these facts when the applicant has presumably recited all of these facts in their application? And our conclusion is simply that they have satisfied them. Why does the opinion have to be more than having reviewed the application? We find all the special criteria to be satisfied. And the only time we'd have to write the opinion is when we deny it because we find something unsatisfied. I'm just
Well-
looking to save us a step or two.
Well, let's look at it this way. Do you think a judge, we're a quasi-judicial body, a judge refers to a defendant's brief and says we agree with the defendant's brief? I think you have to have a finding of fact by the body.
Again, I'm not, this is not a subject I'm willing to go to the mat about, but I continue to believe that saying as a Board of Appeals that we feel the applicant has satisfied the criteria as identified by statute. Or I'm just looking to do a little economics work here. It was sent to us for only one breach, if you will. And here we are having to recount all the things that aren't problems. And I don't understand why we have to say it's not a problem.
I think the bylaw requires this board to make a finding of fact to all those conditions that would allow a special permit to be granted.
Under those circumstances, I withdraw my suggestion.
Not sure we had a second there.
Yeah, do we have a second on the findings of fact?
A second. I second it.
All right, let me call the roll on the findings of fact. Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Ms. Icoll,
Yes.
Mr. Taub,
Yes,
and Mr. Mulligan, yes. Do I have a motion on the matter at hand, on the application?
I
Yep.
move that it be approved as
Yep.
submitted.
And Bruce is making the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Ms. Icoll,
Yes.
Mr. Taub,
Yes,
and I'm also yes, so it's unanimous, passes unanimously. Mr. Zender, if I may ask for, I may make an observation. Your prior applications were all forwarded in a format of a PDF. This one came in as a text edit, whatever that is. I don't know what text edit is, but it helps the board in writing decisions if it's in a PDF format. We can convert that to Word and then it saves us some typing. But I couldn't convert this text edit.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, what I can do is, and what I'm more than happy to do is to submit the application and also submit our narrative in a Word format as well.
Thanks, Mr. Zender. I've taken care of it on this one, but going forward, if whoever helps you with your compilations or your
Yep.
typing.
We're happy to do that.
If you could just remember to do it in a PDF format,
Absolutely.
that'll take care, which is what I think you have done in the past. I don't know what happened here. But
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I don't
thank
know.
you.
I don't know what text edit is anyway, but that's just an observation I'd like to make.
No, happy to do that. Thank you. Thank you all for your time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, are there anything else to come before the board? there is one matter that I would like to bring up. That it's actually Bruce has brought it to my attention, and I don't know how to proceed, but I'm supportive of Bruce's thought. And that is to request or somehow see that the Select Board honor or recognize the contributions of our immediate past chairman. I can say that from my short time in writing opinions, my respect for the amount of work and time and effort he put into this board has grown immensely. And I think that he was here for so many years. If in fact the board is of a habit of doing that, I would like that to be done. I think it's appropriate for it to be done.
agree.
Anybody know the process or the procedure or the history of such things?
I don't.
I dropped a note to Andrea, and she said that when notice of his death was made, that he was verbally acknowledged at a select board meeting. And she inquired what we might have in mind as a quote unquote way of honoring him, whether it was a proclamation or planting a tree or something like that. But I too, I mean, if I didn't know he had passed, but if you look at his obit, he had a lot of involvement with the town. I'm surprised it's coming from us as opposed to something more appreciative, but I was immensely appreciative of his leadership for as long as I was on the board.
As was I.
I would like to do something that acknowledges that. I don't know what it is. Maybe we don't even have to go to the select board, but I felt the need. We didn't even acknowledge his passing. Some of us knew, some of us didn't. I felt funny about that. Thank you.
Tom, you're free to go. Thank you, Tom Evers, if you want
Thanks,
to go.
Tom.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Tom.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night,
Thank-
Tom.
Yeah, well, I was sort of privy to that because it happened very suddenly, and his widow wasn't prepared to have people coming by and dropping off casseroles or whatever, and the phone ringing. So it got to be a little confusing when he died as to how it was up to her to make it public, and she told a few people and asked them to keep it quiet for a while. She even told the town got wind of the town gets notified when someone dies. The town clerk does, and she asked her to keep it quiet for a while. And that's why it was notice was sort of different.
So Bruce, is Andrea waiting to hear back from us? Is that how you left it?
She is, because I said very clearly I was not speaking for the board, that I was just inquiring, and
Well, you've got my vote that,
do you have a suggestion of what it might look like, Matt?
whatever is appropriate or whatever's been, if there's a precedent, follow that. I mean, I like the idea of a memorial tree or some sort of proclamation. I mean, what he did and for the length of time he did it was above and beyond.
I
Well,
agree with that.
Mr. Chairman, if nobody objects, I'm willing to continue to pursue the exploration of this with the board. And we'll report back what I find out.
Quite the contrary to objecting, Mr. Todd, we'll designate you as our official representative for that purpose.
In other words, the select board has a liaison to us and we have a liaison. to
Exactly,
the select
exactly. I
board.
couldn't think of a better role for you.
Thank
than
you,
we are.
Mr. Chairman. I feel promoted.
I can't think of a better candidate to be our advocate with the selectmen.
I modestly accept.
Okay. Anything else to come before just one last thing, it's to the point where I have to say, I got a note from Emily saying that she's sorry that she had to miss a meeting tonight. And the burden of this shouldn't fall on any one of us for our schedule. The burden is the town's burden for not having associates. So I don't want anyone to think that if they have to miss a meeting, that there's some opprobrium that attaches to that. because there should not be, and there isn't in my mind. So I just want to say that. I want to make that known to Emily. We all, from time to time, have to miss meetings, and that's the way it is, and you shouldn't feel guilty about it.
Could I add one thing, Mr. Chairman? I'm still hoping that we have a meeting with Mr. Ford. And part of what I'm hoping out of that meeting, besides an update, is that I've noticed on 3, if not 4 cases that I can identify that I was the sole dissenting voice. And I don't 100% understand what our standard is, other than that I don't want to go into a long discussion, so I apologize. We generally support property owners using their property as they wish, as long as it is so-called consistent with the character of the town. And this consistent with the character of the town is what I'm trying to understand. We, as a board, think that would help me, especially when I find myself in the dissent. So I hope we have one or both of those meetings combined. I think Ford would be helpful relative to the query I'm making, but
Well, let me ask you a question then, Bruce. Let me ask you your calendar.
I have a relatively loose calendar. I had suggested the possibility of the 5th Wednesday this month when we don't have a meeting. But I'm also flexible.
Okay, are you going out of town in November?
I am. I will be. In fact, my flight is on the 16th, which is why I couldn't move anything.
All right, so you're available from now until the 15th of November?
In person, yes.
Yeah. Anybody else have, Matt and Lynn, your availability during this period, generally speaking?
On remote, I'm sitting in South Carolina, but remote,
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be remote. So,
Yep. yep.
Okay. All right, well, let me get some dates, Mr. Taub, from Mike Ford, and circulate that to everybody and see if we can pencil one of the days in.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay. Anything else to come before the board? Then
Motion to adjourn.
My second, is there a second?
Yep, second.
All in favor, any opposed? Thank you all very much.
Right.
Good night.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks.
Chairman. Thank you, everybody.